Carbon fiber frames usually scream premium price tag, but not this one. The Urtopia Carbon Fusion Pro delivers lightweight stiffness, sleek design, and everyday practicality without the luxury cost. And with some SUV capabilities, this bike can ride a lot of places and help you accomplish a lot of things. Let's see what this unique ride is all about in today's review. Hey everyone, Griffin with Electric Bike Report here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We test and review e-bikes to help you figure out which one is right for you. Hit that notification bell to see all the latest from the e-bike world. Today we're looking at the Urtopia Carbon Fusion Pro, and this bike makes a strong first impression. It's built from Toray carbon fiber, which isn't something you usually see at a lower price point. That makes the frame light, stiff, and sleek without the bulky weld marks you'll find on most aluminum builds. Pair that with its geometric frame design and 4 bold color options that it's available in, and you've got a commuter that stands out before you even turn it on. But it's not just about the looks though. The design is surprisingly practical and versatile. The step-through frame makes it approachable, and the adjustable stem lets riders fine-tune their fit. You can sit upright and relax for cruising, or lean in a little more for a sportier feel. Backing that up are some thoughtful component choices. The Zoom suspension fork with 60 millimeters of travel smooths out cracks and potholes, while 29 by 2.05 inch Kenda puncture-resistant tires roll efficiently on pavement, but still have grip for light gravel or rail trail rides. The Shimano Acera 8-speed drivetrain gives you a wide 364% gear range, so you've got options for flat commutes or hillier routes. Power comes from a 500-watt rear hub motor that peaks at 1,000 watts and delivers 60 Newton-meters of torque. I'd classify the motor as quick on city streets and capable of providing steady climbing power when you need it. The system uses a torque sensor, so the assist feels natural and connected to your pedaling effort, mostly. It can really cut loose in higher power settings though. You can choose between 4 assist levels or rely on the thumb throttle when you want the motor to do the work. The bike runs on a 529 watt-hour battery certified to UL 2271 safety standards and UL 2849 on the whole bike, with a claimed range of up to 75 miles depending on how you ride. Charging is handled by a 4-amp fast charger, and if you want more range, there's room for an optional second battery without losing a spot for a water bottle cage, which is a smart design choice. For commuting, the Fusion Pro comes ready with metal fenders, a 40 lux headlight, and a rear tail light. The stock setup is functional, though the lights could be a little brighter and the fenders were a little rattly. Mounting points let you add on accessories, and Urtopia offers an optional MIK HD rear rack that holds up to 60 pounds. That gives you flexibility for panniers, cargo, or even small passengers with the right setup. Stopping power comes from Tektro HD E3520 hydraulic disc brakes with 180mm rotor front and rear, paired with motor cutoff sensors for consistent and predictable braking. As for the size and weight, Urtopia claims the bike is 50 pounds without accessories, and I think they include the battery amongst that, but our fully equipped test model here with the optional rack included weighed in at 57.8 pounds, still lighter than most aluminum commuters with similar builds. The Fusion Pro fits riders between 5'3" and 6'3" and supports up to 330 pounds of total payload. So when you put it all together, the Carbon Fusion Pro feels like one of those SUV-styled e-bikes. Right now, it's going for an MSRP of $19.99, but check the link below for up-to-date pricing. On paper, the package is really compelling at that price, especially with the carbon frame here, but of course the big question is how it performs when the rubber meets the road. So let's roll it out to the test track and see how it handles in our speed test. All right, here's a Class 2 speed test for the Urtopia Fusion Pro. Pedaling around right now, no motor power whatsoever, going in 4th gear, getting about 10.4, 10.7 miles per hour. This bike actually rolls pretty well thanks to some narrow tires and lighter weight frame design. Let's go ahead and kick that motor on the Eco, see what we get here. So this is actually kind of a nice display. It's got a little bit of a breakdown of like rider power versus motor power. Kind of see it just kind of pushing me along there just a little bit, up to about 12.6 miles per hour or so before it starts to kind of back down. Sort of sputters in here and there, but motor's staying quiet so far. Let's go ahead and push forward now into Tour. You can see that motor bar kind of pick back up a little bit. Help nudging us along, move through the gearing here. Pretty good natural engagement, I'd say. Very smooth, not jarring at all. Now, definitely the type of thing you gotta find the sweet spot with, you know, putting down enough leg power to get the motor to respond, but also not taken away from the motor as we get here between 17.5 and 18 miles per hour. Move up into boost mode. This one had a little bit more of a obvious nudge forward in terms of acceleration and power, I'd say. Yeah, this is going to take us right up close to that 20 mile per hour limit. Pretty much right up to it, so we'll go ahead and move it into turbo, but yeah, not going to change the story up too much there. Probably an acceleration difference, but either one of those are going to hit our top 20 mile per hour speed. So let's go ahead and jump into the 25 mile per hour max setting and see what changes up. All right, changed up the settings now, have that 25 mile per hour top speed. Jumping right here into eco mode. Once again, about 12.5, 13 miles per hour or so. Kind of bouncing around between there here in eco. Feels very similar to how it did on class 2. Let's go ahead and bump it up though into tour mode. Similar stories before. It's kind of just cruising along pretty nicely. You pick up the speed just a little bit. Not a huge kick forward or surge of power, but like a noticeable difference that you can just feel the bike going a little bit faster as we get around 17.5, 18 miles per hour here on tour. Move it into boost. Once again, boost is definitely where you kind of like notice a surge ahead, a little bit more powerful engagement. This time we're riding upwards of 22 miles per hour here in 7th gear pretty easily, I'd say. And we'll finish things off in turbo mode, move into our 8th and final gear. Yeah, no problem hitting about 24 miles per hour, 24 and a half. Getting right up to that limit. We'll slow down, get some oncoming traffic here. And see if we can't top it off all the way to 25. Maybe past some of the other folks on the path. But yeah, it's pretty good engagement. Motor's not too loud. Getting just under about 24.5 miles per hour for me, but getting pretty close to that 25 mile per hour speed limit. But all in all, pretty good engagement. Let's do a throttle test and break it down in studio after. Now time to see what the throttle can do. On your mark, get set, go. So starts out pretty manageably, I'd say. It's picking up steam here, keeping the party going. Pushing forward, climbing 18, 19, and 20. Well, 19.9 anyway, and holding steady, so. All right, not bad.
Let's recap those test results. Riding with no motor support kept me around 10.8 miles per hour. In the bike's class 2 settings, eco mode nudged that up to 12.6, and Tour gave a comfortable cruising speed of 17.5. Both boost and turbo topped out at the 20 mile per hour limit. And then once I unlocked class 3 mode, things got a little more exciting. Eco rose to 13.2 miles per hour, Tour pushed to 17.8, boost hit 22.1, and in turbo, the bike reached 24.6 miles per hour. That's plenty quick for commuting or longer weekend rides, and the bike felt stable even near its ceiling. What stood out wasn't just the numbers, but how the assist felt. Eco and Tour delivered that classic torque sensor experience, smooth and natural, like the bike was amplifying my pedaling. Boost sharpened things up with a quicker surge. It was less natural, more powerful. And then turbo almost behaved like a cadence sensor, giving the near effortless speed even with just light pedaling. I actually enjoyed this setup a lot, even if it wasn't a supernatural torque sensor start to finish. This just kind of worked for me. Now pair all that motor with the 44 tooth chainring and 11 to 40 tooth cassette, and you've got gearing that supports both climbing and fast flat experiences. You can get a little downhill pedal in too. Overall, the Fusion Pro's speed profile is unique, lively, and surprisingly versatile, and that makes it a lot of fun to ride. Next up, let's talk range, because no matter how fun or fast a bike is, it's the distance you can cover on a charge that really matters for daily use. Urtopia advertises up to 75 miles on the Carbon Fusion Pro's 529 watt-hour battery. On paper, that's a little ambitious, but Urtopia keeps things light with a 500 watt motor, slim tires, and an efficient torque sensor, so under the right conditions, it's possible. They even claim to have hit that range number on eco mode, riding flat terrain only with a 180-pound rider. Of course, we like to test range in a more diverse real-world setting, so on mixed paths with both hills and flats. And at Class 2 speeds, here's what we recorded. In eco mode, the bike lasted for 48.2 miles. Then in turbo mode, we got 29.7. So no, we didn't quite see 75, but those numbers are still very respectable, and more importantly, they're efficient. Most commuter e-bikes we've tested average around 11.5 watts per mile in low assist and 21.7 in high assist. The Fusion Pro came in at 11 watt per mile in eco and 17.8 in turbo. That means it actually outperformed the category average on both ends. Now for riders worried about range, Urtopia offers a 353 watt-hour extender battery for a few $100s more. Add that, and you're looking at an estimated 50 to 80 miles based on hour numbers. Possibly more with careful riding, as Urtopia quotes up to 120. The extender even doubles as a USB power bank too. You can plug in and charge some of your electronics. And one last thoughtful touch, Urtopia kept 2 bottle cage mounts on the frames, so you can carry water, the extender battery, or both. Overall, the Carbon Fusion Pro makes excellent use of its capacity and offers a clever solution if you want to stretch it even further. All right, it's time to see how the Carbon Fusion Pro can handle the steep stuff. For this, we head to our usual proving ground, the Devil's Backbone. It's a half-mile climb with an average 8% grade and about 217 feet of elevation gain. In other words, it's a real gut check for any e-bike. We run the test 2 ways, first using only the throttle and then again in the bike's highest pedal assist mode. I'll let our dedicated hill tester, Justin, show you how it did.
We are out at the Devil's Backbone hill testing the Urtopia Carbon Fusion Pro. We are in turbo, and this one has a throttle, something we have not seen from Urtopia yet. So we're gonna see how it does. Hit about 15 miles per hour before this first hill, and now at 10 miles per hour, 9 miles per hour. This is kind of a lighter weight bike. Felt pretty peppy as I was going down, but I was not actually sure if this was going to make it up or not, given the specs on it. So it did make it through that first section, bottomed out right about 8 miles per hour. We are climbing now back up to 12.7, 12.5. And as we start to make this turn, we're at 8 miles per hour, 8.3, 7.7. Starting to slow down. Let's see if it kind of has that low end torque to kind of keep it going. Down to 7 miles per hour. It's kind of holding there. And we're gonna bottom out on this section here. Looks like it about 6.4 miles per hour. Make this turn and see if we can keep going. So we're at 9 miles an hour here, kind of dropping a little bit. 8.2, 8.0, and we're going to cross this lamp post, set this first marker here right at 8.0, 8 miles per hour. As far as the motor goes, it is incredibly quiet. Like, the only thing I'm actually hearing is the hub engagement. Now, I'm not going crazy fast, but it's very quiet. So almost one thing it's an e-bike, except for I'm not pedaling. So I don't know if it's going to make it though. We're down to 3.8, 3.2, 3.1, 2.6, and 1.7. Yep, we're done. Okay, so that's how far the Urtopia Fusion Pro made it. We'll turn around and do the pedal test. All right, we are back out now on the Carbon Fusion Pro, doing the hill test now on pedal. I'm on turbo, hit about 19 miles an hour before that first hill. I was in 8th gear. I'm gonna shift down to 6th, actually. Just kind of feels where I want to be in terms of cadence and my output levels. This first section looks like we're going to kind of bottom right about 13.2 miles per hour. So this 500 watt motor, don't expect it to be a barn burner by any means going up the hill, but feels pretty good so far. Back up to 15 miles an hour before this turn. I'm gonna downshift to 5th, maybe even to 4th. We're at 11.6 miles per hour, 10.8, 10.7. We're gonna bottom right at about 10.0, 10.1. Make this turn. I think I'm good in 4th. I'm gonna downshift to 3rd. And we'll see where we get to before this first point here, the lamppost. So we're at 10.3 right now. And we're gonna cross right at 10 miles an hour. Motor noise, still incredibly quiet. If I wasn't getting assist, I would not think I'm on an e-bike. The engagement of the motor, very responsive, very smooth. These rear hub motors are just getting better and better. And this is an example of that. I'm gonna shift down to 2nd. So I'm gonna let you listen now as we climb up this steep section. So yeah, the only thing that you're hearing probably, maybe the birds chirping, maybe some of my breathing. I have to push a little bit harder on this one, hence the breathing. It does feel natural. So on the lighter side of assist, kind of what I'd expect from a 500 watt rear hub motor. And you know, I find if I'm in the 2nd gear, 3rd gear, and just kind of pedal, it's pretty good. So not going to set any records, but it's definitely going to get to the top and feels great. And we're going to finish right about 7.5 miles per hour.
On the throttle only test, the Fusion Pro made it about 72% of the way up the hill before stalling out. Not the first 500 watt motor to tap out, and it won't be the last. However, those that stall out tend to do so closer to the halfway mark, so while it didn't finish, it still outperformed expectations in throttle-only mode. When we switched to turbo mode with pedaling, the bike completed the climb in 2 minutes and 54 seconds, averaging 10.4 miles per hour. That's slower than the commuter category average, which currently sits at 2 minutes and 17 seconds. But keep in mind, this bike is tuned more for efficiency and agility than brute force climbing. The important thing is I got to the top, and it did so without feeling like it was going to struggle to the point of failure. Now for riders in very hilly areas, you may want more motor muscle, but if your daily rides are flatter, or if you don't mind putting in some work on steeper stuff, the Fusion Pro still gets the job done. A 10.4 mile per hour average up a hill like that is still faster than any analog bike is doing. Now, I even tested it at a secondary climb closer to the office. It's not quite as steep, but it's a 1/3 of a mile at a 6% average grade. And even with my extra 50-pound weight over Justin, it still carried me to the top. So while it's not winning any contests anytime soon, it's not the type to tap out readily either. Okay, now let's talk stopping power. Because as much fun as it is to test speed and climbing, brakes are just as important for keeping your ride safe. Now, I am the dedicated tester on the brake test, and I take the bike up to 20 miles per hour, then bring it to a full stop in a smooth, controlled manner. We repeat the process 3 times and average the results. And for reference, I'm 6'1" and 235 pounds. In testing, the Fusion Pro averaged a 22-foot, 4-inch stopping distance. That's just a few inches longer than our current all-bike average of 2111, but actually an inch shorter than the commuter bike average. Considering the bike rolls on 29-inch wheels with a knobbier tread, which typically stretch out stopping distance, this was an impressive performance. The Carbon Fusion Pro uses the Tektro HD E3520 hydraulic disc brake with 180mm rotors front and rear. It's a pretty common choice for bikes in the 2000 and under range, offering a good mix of capability and affordability. Out on the road, the brakes felt predictable, and that's about all I asked for. No skidding, no fishtailing, just smooth, controlled stops. Add in the integrated rear brake light, and you've got a setup that feels safe and practical for daily riding. You know, for these SUV styled e-bikes, the things that are kind of designed to handle a little bit of anything you want to throw at them, whether you just need a commuter with a little bit of off-roading edge, whether you want to do like an actual proper e-bike tour or something like that, if you're trying to make one that comes in like a one-size package that's going to fit most people, I think this is actually a really good example of execution towards that intent. Urtopia's done a really nice job here with Fusion Pro. It's a very versatile ride. I think it's going to fit a lot of people, and you can definitely use it for a variety of activities. So it's going to break down everything when it comes to overall fit and the features and the functionality. So in terms of fit, Urtopia quotes this as being good for riders from 5'3" up to 6'3". I think that's totally valid. On the taller end of things here, you know, I'm 6'1", 32-inch inseam. I'd say I've got like 95% of the leg extension I would hope to see here. If there's another half an inch or an inch to get out of the seat post here, it would be all the better, but I definitely think this is usable as a starting point. Thanks, of course, to the fact you also have this adjustable stem here, raise that handlebar up so you can, you know, affect how you kind of want to ride the bike. I could be a little bit more forward leaning, I'm a little bit more of aggressive stance, I'm a little bit more upright right now, but definitely accommodating for someone on the taller end. And then on the shorter end at 5'3", you know, it's got a 19 or 20-inch step over height with that step-through frame. Makes it pretty welcoming for smaller riders as well. And then, of course, a 330-pound total weight capacity. Overall, I think it's a pretty nice and solid construction here. The frame is pretty impressive. This carbon fiber, it helps keep it a little bit lighter than, you know, some of its peers in this class, but it's still pretty confident as well. Like, it's relatively stiff for a step-through frame. Now, don't get me wrong, with any step-through frame, you can find some flex if you're looking for it. But I think just, again, comparatively, it's fairly, like, stiff, fairly confident. You can take corners with a little bit more speed, not feeling like you're, you know, going around on a wet noodle or anything like that. It's confidence inspiring for sure. Now, in terms of some of the other, you know, features here that you're getting, the fork up front, zoom, coil fork, 60 millimeters of travel, you know, definitely makes the riding on the roads, any potholes or any whatever you might come across, far more comfortable. You've got a preload adjustment you can dial in to help match your body weight. You know, for me, it's holding up pretty well. It's not readily bottoming out or anything like that, so good there. And then, you know, like there's like a little label or sticker that Zoom puts on the back that I think sums it up nicely, which is like, hey, it's not intended for downhill, for jumping, for any, you know, more intensive riding. It is intended for leisure and cross-country purposes, and it definitely checks that box. And then kind of combined with the hybrid tires, you know, again, if you want to do some touring, you want to hit some brushed limestone, gravel path type things, have a little bit more confidence, a little bit more grip there. The tread pattern on the tires definitely allows for that. You know, a little bit of knobbies, not overly chunky though either. It adds a touch bit of like noise here on the roads, but it doesn't feel like it slows or holds the bike back either. It's pretty like efficient. Again, that's a 29 by 2.05 or 2.5, can't remember, inch tire, 2.05, excuse me. You know, it's fairly narrow by today's standards for most e-bikes, so again, it feels like it's pretty agile, pretty efficient. It rolls forward with no problems, and I actually like the 29-inch, you know, size as well. A little bit larger of a tire than some others choose to spec, but hey, it's great in my world. Now, in terms of the motor, you know, the motor's like pretty interesting, but I've come to kind of like it. I kind of think of the first two modes, Eco and Tour, they're very natural feeling, good, like application of power. You can get going pretty like fast on them. I'm in Tour, you know, with a little bit of rider input, pushing upwards of 18, 19 miles per hour. And then if you kind of like want things to switch from natural to boosted, that's when you jump over into boost mode, of course, and it definitely feels more supercharged in that mode. And then when you actually go to turbo mode, that feels a lot more cadence-based than torque-based. I mean, I can drop the gearing down to the point where I am ghost pedaling, it's still powering me right along. So almost feels like you're kind of getting two sensor modes in one here. I don't actually mind that at all because you can really pick your speed just depending on how much effort you want to give on any given day. But like I said, overall, pretty adaptable bike, fairly comfortable, good handling, a lot of positives about it, and then a lot of different ways you can, you know, take advantage of the rear rack, some of the other accessories they have. But let's talk about those back in the studio.
When it comes to overall ride quality, Urtopia really nailed the core elements of the Carbon Fusion Pro. The carbon frame, taller 29-inch tires, and upright handlebar setup all come together to make the bike feel stable, comfortable, and easy to handle. Out on the road, it's smooth and predictable, exactly what you want from a commuter that doubles as a light touring bike option. That said, there are a couple of areas where some refinement could help.
The metal fenders earn points for integrating the rear light directly into the design, but the support arms felt a bit flimsy and I noticed some rattling I couldn't quite smooth out. The 40 lux headlight also felt undersized, and with the way the cables dangle, it can sometimes be obstructed. A little cable braiding would clean things up nicely. Where the Fusion Pro shines is in its add-on options. The MIK HD rear rack is one of my favorite systems. Panniers and baskets snap on and off in seconds. Much better than fiddling with hooks, straps, loops, or bolts. And with a 60-pound weight rating, you can even set it up for child seats or small passengers with cushions. Add in the optional second battery, which doubles as a power bank, and that still leaves room for a bottle cage, and you've got a commuter that's flexible, practical, and ready for daily use. All right, let's just jump straight into some straightforward pros and cons. Starting with the pros, this bike has a unique yet practical design. The carbon fiber frame keeps it light and stiff, which gives it responsive handling. And the angular profile really just stands out, especially with the 4 bold color options. It's also a pretty versatile build. The step-through frame, 29-inch knobby tires, adjustable stem, and 60mm suspension fork make it comfortable for commuting, cruising, or light touring. Fit is also adaptable too, with size range from 5'3" to 6'3". I'm often critical on one size frame choices, but this one does feel more adaptable than most. Value is another strength. You're getting carbon fiber quality at a much friendlier price point without sacrificing components. Add in the thoughtful accessory options like the MIK HD rear rack and the range extender battery that still leaves room for that bottle cage, and you've got a bike that's easy to tailor to your lifestyle. I also like the 4-amp fast charger. More brands should hop on that trend. Now for the cons. The front headlight is small with modest output and placement that can be blocked by some messy looking cables. A little tidier braiding would help there, or a bigger light and/or different placement. And while the bike feels stable at speed, the 25-mile-per-hour cap holds it back slightly. The motor and drivetrain feel ready for a full Class 3 28-mile-per-hour setup, but the programming stops short. The Urtopia Carbon Fusion Pro makes a strong case for riders who want a lightweight, versatile e-bike without breaking the bank. Carbon fiber frames used to be reserved for premium price tags, but Urtopia delivers those benefits, the lightweight, stiff, and sleek styling on a more accessible platform. This bike feels just at home on daily commutes as it does on light touring or weekend exploring. I especially enjoyed the way that it handles. The carbon frame gives it an agile, playful character, and it stays confident even at higher speeds. Definitely a step up above your average commuter. The 500-watt motor brings lively acceleration on flat ground and can take on hills as long as you're willing to put in a bit of pedaling. You'll still breeze past most acoustic riders though. You can find the Fusion Pro online and in select retailers, and if you decide this is the bike for you, check out the link below. Not only does it give you the most up-to-date pricing, but also helps support the channel. I'm Griffin with Electric Bike Report. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next ride.